The stage lights glowed in soft hues of blue and gold, and Jennifer Hudson's signature voice rang out, filling the room with warmth and excitement. The audience roared as she introduced her guest, her smile wide, her tone brimming with admiration. This was no ordinary guest, this was the incomparable Chaka Khan, the queen of funk, the voice behind generations of unforgettable hits. The applause reached a fever pitch as Chaka walked out, dressed in a flowing outfit that shimmered under the spotlight, her presence commanding every eye in the room. Jennifer rose from her chair, arms open for an embrace. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice rising with pride, "the one, the only, Chaka Khan." The two embraced, but the moment had a strange undercurrent. Chaka's smile was there, but faint, and her body language carried the energy of someone who wasn't in the mood for the usual pleasantries. Still, the crowd cheered on, unaware of the fire simmering beneath the surface. Jennifer opened smoothly, as any seasoned host would. "Chaka, we're so honored to have you here today. You've inspired generations with your music, your strength, and your style. Tell us, when you look back on this incredible career, how does it feel?" Chaka chuckled, but it wasn't the warm laugh the audience expected. It was sharp, almost dismissive. "Baby, I don't need nobody rewriting my history for me. I know exactly how it feels. Hard, beautiful, messy, but I don't sit around looking back like some old film reel." The audience laughed awkwardly, unsure if she was joking or being serious. Jennifer, momentarily caught off guard, tried to keep her composure. She smiled brightly, her professional instincts kicking in. "Of course, you've always lived in the moment, that's part of what makes you legendary." But the current was already shifting. Jennifer leaned in, eager to spotlight Chaka's influence on new artists, including herself. "You've paved the way for so many singers, including me. I have to tell you, when I was coming up, your voice was one of the first I tried to emulate." Chaka cut her off with a wave of her hand, her tone suddenly sharper. "Influence, let's be real here, half these girls out today couldn't carry a note without auto-tune. And some of them got the nerve to call themselves singers." Her eyes flicked briefly toward Jennifer before sweeping across the crowd. "Now, you've got chops. But don't try to put me on some shelf like a museum piece. I'm still here, and I'm still better than most of them out there right now." The words landed heavy. The audience gasped, then clapped hesitantly, unsure if they were meant to laugh, cheer, or stay silent. Jennifer, her smile tight, nodded quickly. "Absolutely, you're not just part of history, you're still shaping it." But Chaka wasn't softening. Her voice rose, commanding the stage. "You want to talk about shaping history? Let's talk about what this industry does to women. It chews us up, spits us out, and then invites us onto talk shows when we survive it. I've bled for this business. I've fought tooth and nail. Don't sit there and wrap me up with polite little questions like I'm some fairy tale." The atmosphere shifted from celebratory to tense. The audience murmured, leaning in with nervous fascination. Jennifer, always known for her calm grace, tried to reel the moment back. "I just want to give you your flowers while you're here, because you deserve them." Chaka's eyes blazed. "Baby, I've been giving myself flowers since before you were singing in church. Don't act like you're doing me a favor. I don't need your flowers. I need the truth told." The audience let out a collective gasp, followed by scattered applause. It was no longer a polished daytime interview, it was raw, unfiltered, and unpredictable. Jennifer forced a laugh, but her eyes betrayed the tension building beneath her composure. She leaned forward, her voice firmer now, with just a touch of edge. "With all due respect, Ms. Khan, my platform is about honoring legends like you, not tearing each other down." The two women locked eyes. Chaka tilted her head, her gaze sharp as glass. "Then honor me by letting me speak my truth, not by trying to narrate it for me." The studio was thick with electricity. Every camera caught the crackle in the air, the clash of two powerful women, one, an icon who refused to be softened, the other, a rising legend trying to hold her ground. The audience didn't know whether to clap, gasp, or sit frozen, but one thing was certain, this was no ordinary segment. It was a storm, live and unfiltered, and no one could look away. By the second half of the interview, chaos brewed behind the cameras. Producers leaned into their headsets, whispering frantically as stage managers gestured for Jennifer's team to stay calm. What was supposed to be a polished, glowing tribute episode had transformed into a raw, unscripted clash that no amount of editing could erase. The audience, meanwhile, sat on the edge of their seats, captivated by every word and gesture. They weren't watching a daytime talk show anymore, they were witnessing something unfiltered, alive, and volatile. Jennifer straightened in her chair, her smile faded now into a firm, measured composure. She took a breath and leaned forward, locking her gaze onto Chaka. "Ms. Khan," she said, her voice steady but edged with determination, "you've always stood for authenticity. That's part of what makes you timeless. And I think the people watching at home, especially the younger singers, they look up to you for guidance, whether it's about artistry, life, or survival." Chaka shifted, crossing her legs, her expression unreadable at first. Then her lips curled into a sharp, knowing smile. "Guidance. You want me to guide them? Fine, I'll tell them the truth. Don't sign your soul away to these record labels. Don't let nobody tell you what you're worth. And don't think fame will save you. Fame is a mask, baby, it'll suffocate you if you're not careful. You wake up one day, chewed up and spit out, wondering who you even are." Her voice boomed across the studio, more sermon than interview answer, and the audience sat in rapt silence. It was fiery, painful, and brutally real. Some nodded, some whispered in awe, but no one dared look away. Jennifer nodded slowly, clearly struck by the rawness of Chaka's words. For a moment, her eyes softened, glimpsing the weight of decades of scars carried behind that powerhouse voice. She leaned closer, speaking gently but firmly. "That's why conversations like this matter. Because people need to hear that honesty. They need to know the cost of the climb. And you, more than anyone, can show them that." For a second, it seemed like the tension was easing. But Chaka's eyes sharpened again, and she leaned forward, her tone suddenly cutting. "And let's be real, Jennifer. You know what I'm talking about. You've had your battles. Don't sit there acting like you floated to the top without blood on the floor." The audience gasped audibly this time. The line had crossed from abstract truth to personal jab. Jennifer's jaw tightened, her eyes narrowing just slightly. The warmth in her voice was still there, but it was now lined with steel. "Yes," she said, her voice low but clear. "I've had my battles, I've had my losses, but I've also had my victories. And that's why I created this space, to show the world that even in pain, we rise." The two women sat in silence for a beat, eyes locked, neither willing to break first. The air in the studio was heavy, electric, as if every breath was part of a tug of war. The audience didn't move, afraid to disturb the fragile balance. Chaka tilted her head, studying Jennifer, her lips twitching into something between a smirk and a frown. "You've got spirit," she said finally, her tone grudging but tinged with respect. "Maybe more than I thought." Jennifer's shoulders eased just slightly. She allowed herself a small smile, the kind that masked both relief and resolve. "And maybe," she replied softly, "you've got more softness than you let people see." The words hung in the air, disarming the tension. For the first time all episode, Chaka chuckled, not sharply, not bitterly, but genuinely. It wasn't long or loud, but it was enough to release some of the heaviness in the room. The audience, seizing the moment, erupted into applause, louder than before, a mix of admiration and sheer relief. It was as though they had collectively exhaled after holding their breath through the storm. Jennifer leaned back slightly, the corners of her mouth lifting. Chaka sat back too, her fiery presence still strong but tempered now with a glimmer of respect in her eyes. As the credits began to roll, the energy lingered. The clash between Chaka Khan and Jennifer Hudson was already seared into memory. Viewers at home were already pulling out phones, tweeting, posting clips, and debating fiercely online. Some saw Chaka as the unflinching truth-teller, refusing to let herself be reduced to a polished tribute. Others saw Jennifer as the embodiment of grace under fire, holding her ground without losing her composure. Either way, no one could deny what they had just witnessed. It wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't staged, it was raw, it was real, and it was unforgettable. Backstage, producers exchanged shell-shocked glances, muttering about how to spin the segment. But spin or not, the moment was out there, alive and unstoppable. What had begun as a celebration had turned into something far bigger, a collision of two powerhouse women, one a living legend unafraid of fire, the other a rising icon determined to stand tall in it. And as the studio lights dimmed, one thing was certain, this wasn't just another talk show moment. It was the kind of cultural flashpoint that would be replayed, dissected, and remembered long after the cameras stopped rolling.